Abraham remarries. Hi, I'm Ronald, and welcome to Bible Talk, where I break down and discuss parts of the Bible. And today I'm continuing with chapter 25 in the book of Genesis. Now, 25:1 begins with Abraham took another wife whose name was Keturah. This was after the death of Sarah. Now, it's easy to forget that Abraham had a second wife and that he fathered 6 more sons through her. Abraham had a total of 8 sons, Isaac through Sarah, Ishmael through Hagar, and 6 through Keturah. Verses 5 and 6 say that Abraham gave all that he had to Isaac, but Abraham gave gifts to the sons of the concubines that he had while he was still living. And he also sent them eastward to live away from their son Isaac. Verses 7 to 11 says, "This is the sum of the years of Abraham's life, which he lived 175 years. Then Abraham breathed his last and died in a good old age, an old man full of years, and was gathered to his people. And his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah. There Abraham was buried with Sarah his wife. Then it came to pass after the death of Abraham that God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac dwelt at Beer Lahai Roi." Abraham passed from the scene, but he was one of the most important men in the Bible. He's mentioned 70 times in the New Testament alone. Only Moses is mentioned more, 80 times. Now, although his life was not perfect by many measure, he was a man of faith who had a real relationship with God, remarkable obedience, and a true friend of God. Abraham was a great man, but he was only a man. God's work passed on from one generation to the next. Now God would carry on the work of the covenant first promised to Abraham through his son Isaac. Verses 12 to 18 list the genealogy of Ishmael. Here, the 12 sons of Ishmael are named. With so many sons to carry on his name, Ishmael was a blessed man. However, he was not blessed with the inheritance of the covenant God made with Abraham. Although 12 princes, 137 years, and Ishmael was gathered to his people. He died in the presence of all his brethren. Then we continue with verses 19 to 23, and this is the genealogy of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac. Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel. Now Isaac pleaded with the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord granted his plea, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. But the children struggled together within her, and she said, "If all is well, why am I like this?" So she went to inquire to the Lord, and the Lord said to her, verse 23, "2 nations are in your womb, 2 people shall be separated from your body. One people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger." Now the struggle that took place in Rebekah's womb made her seek God. As she sought him, the Lord spoke to her regarding the number of children in her womb, their gender, and their destiny. Now even the son of promise did not come into the promise quickly. Their faith and persistence in prayer were tested and invited to grow over many years. These were also the only children conceived born to Isaac and Rebekah. Now their prayer was answered some 20 years after Isaac and Rebekah married. God said it simply. Rebekah would give birth to twins, and the twins would each father a nation. One would be greater than the other, and the younger would be greater than the older. In this case, God chose to go against the accepted pattern of younger serving the older. In Romans 9:10 to 13, the Apostle Paul used this choice of Jacob over Esau before their birth to illustrate God's sovereign choice. Some question the fairness of God making such a choice before Jacob and Esau were born, yet we should regard the love and the hate God spoke of in Malachi 1:2-3 and Romans 9:10-13 as having to do with his purpose in choosing one of these two to become the heir of the covenant of Abraham. In that regard, God's preference could rightly be regarded as a display of love toward Jacob and hate toward Esau. Now, the real thought in Malachi 1 and Romans 9 is much more like accepted and rejected than it is like our understanding of the terms loved and hated. God did not hate Esau in the sense of cursing him to a doomed life in either this world or the next. All told, Esau was indeed a blessed man, and in some ways more well-adjusted than Jacob. We see that in Genesis 33, verses 4 to 9. Yet regarding the inheritance of the covenant, it could be rightly said that God hated Esau and loved Jacob. Now, a woman once said to Charles Spurgeon, "I cannot understand why God would say that he hated Esau." And Spurgeon replied, "Is not difficulty, madam. My trouble is to understand how God could love Jacob." Now, our greatest error in considering God's choice is to think that he makes them for arbitrary reasons, as if they were random or senseless. God chooses according to his divine wisdom, love, and goodness. We may not understand his reasons for choosing, which he knows and answers, but God's choices are not random or careless. Verses 24 to 26. So when her days were fulfilled for her to give birth, indeed, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red. He was like a hairy garment all over, so they called him Esau. Afterward, his brother came out, and his hand took a hold of Esau's heel, so his name was called Jacob. Now, Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. Now, verses 29 to 34 are very interesting. Now Jacob cooked a stew, and Esau came in from the field, and he was weary. And Esau said to Jacob, "Please feed me with that same red stew, for I am weary." Therefore his name was called Edom. But Jacob said, "Sell me your birthright as of this day." And Esau said, "Look, I am about to die, so what is this birthright to me?" Then Jacob said, "Swear to me as of this day." So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. And Jacob gave Esau bread and stew of lentil, and he ate and drank and arose and went on his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. "Sell me your birthright as of this day." Now Jacob knew that the birthright was valuable and that he wanted it. Passages like Deuteronomy 21:17 and 1 Chronicles 5:1-2 tell us the birthright involves both a material and a spiritual dynamic. The son of the birthright received a double portion of the inheritance, and upon his father's death, he became the head of the household and the spiritual leader. In the case of this family, the birthright determined who would inherit the covenant God made with Abraham, the covenant of a land, a nation, and the Messiah. Now Esau's thought wasn't that he was so hungry that he would die without food. Instead, the idea was, "I will die one day anyhow, so what good is a birthright to me?" Now Jacob acted in the character of his name, acting like a heel catcher. He acted like a scoundrel or a rascal and taken advantage of his brother. Now Jacob was guilty of scheming in the flesh to gain something God said was already his. Yet we should remember that far greater blame was placed on Esau, who despised his birthright. Now according to Loophole, an Old Testament scholar, he points out that Martin Luther drew attention to an important fact. This was not a valid transaction because Jacob tried to purchase what was already his, and Esau tried to sell something that didn't belong to him. Now I'm going to leave it here for today. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment if you so like, and I'll see you next time. God bless.